go a little wider. Brings ball back for Marshall. The footwork. Benji Marshall. Now the speed. The footwork again. Away from Peachy. Passes without looking. Away for Richards. Back to Fitzhenry. That is as good as you will see.
Welcome back to the Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Tigers for Life. And tonight we have three special guests with us. We have Timmy, who we always have. How you going, Timmy?
Doing well, thanks, Glenn. Good to be back. Always good to talk to lovely people about our lovely SuperCoach.
Yeah, and then there's me.
Yeah. That's
And how'd your week go, mate?
pretty average. Captain Cleary, like a lot of other people did. Just kind of went the safe play from where I was in my leagues. I was sitting first in a head-to-head league and second in another one. Captain in Cleary, I still finished first in one league. I basically couldn't lose, so that was just a safety bet thing. But yeah, in the other one, I went from second, equal points on first, from second down to fourth, I think, in the end. So yeah, ouch.
And did you put a dent in your overalls at all, or?
Yeah, I actually dropped back another 1,700 places or something. So okay. I went from having no reds for most of the season to 2 reds in a row, and I've dropped back to bloody 16,000. I think it's gone pretty crap. Okay,
so it's a long way from better than where you were at the start of the season. So.
Oh, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty easy to go forwards at 100k.
Yeah, there's only ways up. And Ross, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. So it's good to be back on. It's been a while since I've been on, so it's good to be back. But yeah, not a bad week. 1163. I straight out captain Tedesco. Moved up 293 places, but still sitting in a very horrible position at just under 20k. So not the best year, as we said before the pod, compared to last year. This time last year I was sitting at like 58th overall. So it's a bit of a hit, but that's okay. Look, you can't go well every year, so
I'll give you some comfort, Ross. If you was 20k 5 years ago, that would have been, in my opinion, poorly ranked. But the way SuperCoach has evolved over the last 4 or 5 years, I really think that the top 30k are genuinely good players. So if that gives you any comfort at all.
Not really. I think as I was saying before off air, like before we came on, that I just didn't follow my gut this year, which I did last year. And I there's a lot of players that I didn't jump on that I should have, like Tarpany and Manu and blokes like that, and just bought in. There's a couple of stud trades that I did, and I just sit there and go, why did I do that? But that's SuperCoach. It's just the way it goes. So, we'll dust the cobwebs off and finish this off, and then get ready for BBL and the racing, and then get ready for next year. Hopefully do a bit better.
Some seasons we get the decisions right. We get into a rhythm. I just feel like everything, when I get in a rhythm, those seasons that I've done really well, everything just starts to fall into place. But when you have a hiccuping season, it tends to just keep hiccuping.
It's been poor. It's been wrong captaincy choices this year for me as well. There's been a lot that I've just But anyway, that's okay.
As well.
It happens.
And now we have Brad as well, mate. How you doing? Coach of Hopper's Fingers, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Hopper's Finger, mate. Not going too good really this year. I'm ranked about 9 or 9,000s, I think, at the moment. But I think Roscoe said, a bit different to last year. Last year time, I think I was in the top 10. So it's a long fall from grace. But over many years of playing SuperCoach, you get that. You get falls and you get good years and you get bad years, and it's the way it is. I captain Cleary, so I had a moderate stinker. I'd still got just under 1,100, so I just tread water from my position. Really, not really up, not really down. I don't think. We want to see some green arrows, but I'm just, as I said, just treading water there. Just can't really nail those captain decisions at the moment. That's for sure.
I remember this happening last year with. You probably remember Ponga. Got 15 last year, went off with the HIA, and not a good percentage of us captained him as well last year. Messed around with us a little bit. All right, we'll start off tonight with the trade talk, like we normally do. So we'll get into a little bit of the trade talk tonight. So we'll start with who's being traded out. And the number one on the list at the moment is Nathan Cleary. So I'll come to you, Tim. What do you think about people trading Cleary? It's a pretty much a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, boys, it's a bit of a no-brainer. It's obviously team dependent on whether you've got a decent backup halfback. If you're running someone a bit light on, then then yeah, look, you've just basically got to do it. You've got to bite the bullet. The hard part is there seems to be, actually, it's really interesting from listening to a lot of other podcasts today and yesterday afternoon, there seems to be a lot of players and smart players who are basically out of trades, and we've still got 5 rounds to go. So it's very interesting. This year seems to be a bit different. I think in the past, players have got to the last 2 rounds and had 1 trade left. This year, 5 rounds to go, guys are on their last trade and they're going, well, what do I do? So I think if you've got some decent backup, then I would absolutely be subbing Cleary out rather than trading Cleary out. I'm in the position myself. I've got Hines up in halfback. I'm contemplating on holding trades for the week. But yeah, I mean, I've still got 4 trades, 5 trades and a boost. But I'm placed well in head-to-heads, and I gave up on overall about a month ago. So yeah.
Okay, nice. I'll move to the next one because I don't think there's much to talk about in that one. I think this one's a little bit more. It sort of took me aback. I'll come to you for this one, Roscoe. It's May. Tyrone May is the next most sold.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I was just listening to another pod before and they were talking about trading him out. And I don't know, like, I think I'd rather trade him out if I have the trades left. I mean, you've got to have the trades left. That's the problem. You're not going to be trading him out if you've only got 2 to 3 trades left. I mean, for me, if that's the case, I'm just benching him. That's what I'm doing this week. I'm not playing him. But if you have the trades and you've got the cash to upgrade him to another gun like Manu or Holmes or someone like that, I get it, because he has been pretty average the last few weeks. He hasn't scored a decent score in quite a few weeks. So I don't hate the trade out ideas, but I mean, I can't imagine too many people are going to have a lot of trades left at this time of the season either. So for me, it's a luxury trade, and if you've got the trades and you've got the cash, then yeah, why not? I don't hate it.
Yeah, I do. I think that I still think Penrith will be a formidable foe without Cleary and Luai, and they tend to play a left side dominant football. And I think with SOS in there, is it Sullivan?
Yeah.
Sullivan, yeah, I think Sullivan. I still think he'll get their troops moving around pretty well. I do agree with you though. I'm not playing him this week.
I just think the draw's not great because they've got who they got this week again? Who are they playing?
Canberra,
and then they've got this. Then I'm pretty sure they've got Storm and South next 2 couple of games too. So it's not the best draw.
Yeah,
and he hasn't got the best base either, to be honest with you. So yeah,
people that are doing that trade must be pretty flush with trades because
they have to be.
Yeah, that was my only thought.
Panthers have got Raiders, Melbourne, Bunnies, Warriors, North Queensland. Next 5.
It's not the best. It's not the best draw.
Right.
I can understand why people are doing it if they've got trades. I can, depending on where they are in head to head. Like if this is a must win head to head, if they're sitting 5 through to 8 in their head to heads, and so they basically don't get another crack at it, it's do or die this week. I could absolutely understand why going a May to like a Dewey or a Val Holmes. I'm contemplating one of the trades that I've run through this week is actually that going May through to Adam Dewey, and I think Dewey's got more upside at the moment. May's been pretty average for a while. He hasn't had the cash that he did about a month ago, but so you're not getting the benefits out of it. But I can understand why some people are doing it, but it is certainly team dependent, and it depends on where you are sitting, like what your goal is. If you're trying to win head to head or stay in the top 4, get back in the top 4 or whatever in head to head, then absolutely.
I'll just address something you said. Like, so you mentioned Dewey in the centre wings, and I don't hate that. When I look at my centre wing, especially at the back end of a season, I look at the sides that I think have a ceiling, and I look at the sides who I think who have got are going to get more opportunities to put that player into a position to score. And when I look at the Tigers, I don't see that. But having said that, I'm a big Dewey fan, and I've got his numbers here actually. He's got 14, 36, 27, 87, 51, and then 122. So, and that's with a try in that one last week, which we saw. All right, I'll move on to the next one. This is coming to you, Brad. Clem. There's been a lot said about Clem this week. So, another one I think is a bit of a no-brainer given he's not named. But what are your thoughts on selling him?
Oh, there's not really too much to add to it. I mean, you've really got to, at this time of year, if you've got a trade or two there, he's not critical, but the rumour is that he won't play again for the Knights this year. So, yeah, he basically got to go. Real pity because he's been just about in a position, the front rowers have been really hard work for all super coaches this year. I think all of you would agree on that, you know, apart from a couple of standouts, Tapine has been, you know, fantastic, but been hard work. And Clemmer has been one of the best. So, yeah.
It's interesting to listen to the excuses that they're coming up with to get rid of him out of the side. I mean, in one sentence, they're saying that he's been named Newcastle's best player and can't be beaten with 5 weeks to go. Then in the next statement, they're saying after his interaction on field and his behaviour to the trainers that they're going to sack him. Would you think it's anything, Brad, to do with the 800K that he's on and they're trying to free up coin?
Could quite well be. It's very confusing what they're doing with their roster up there. It's almost like they've got somebody in charge of the head of football, not necessarily the coach, who thinks he's a fantasy expert.
Yeah.
And he's grabbing bits and pieces from all around. It's rather than just a football recruiter, you know, somebody who can actually recruit the right people for the right positions. You know, they really went into the season without any halves whatsoever. Yeah, Milford's sort of tidied it up a little bit, I have to say, but not by much.
You mentioned the footy now of Newcastle, and I have to agree with you. Sometimes owners come into the game and they buy a side and they think, you know, I've been watching this game all my life. I know what I need to do. And the actual running of a football side is so much different, you know, to having a footy brain and being involved and experienced in how to do that. And I don't see a lot of experience above Adam O'Brien. Even Adam O'Brien's at the lower end of the layers when it comes to experience. Do you agree with that with the Knights?
Look, yeah, he's. I actually feel in a way a little bit sorry for him. I don't think it's all necessarily his fault.
No.
Yeah, I think he's let down a bit by his administration there, and he's really. I mean, the roster is really unbalanced. You know, even if Ponga goes down, you've got F all there to back him up. You know, the back line is just awful, really, as an NRL standard, and then you got some half decent second rowers, and you've got a fair bit of money in the front row with the Sapiti boys and Clemmer and Frizzell in the middle as well. So you got a lot of money in the middles, but yeah, they just spent it all really weirdly. Like I just said, why would you spend that much money all through the middle section and not put any investment into your halves? And now, of course, they're buggered because they got there's nobody out on the open market that's really, would you want them? You know, I mean, I know you're a Tiger, but really, is Brooks the answer?
No.
You know, like, wow. So that's where they're really buggered because Brooks is the only real option now that's sort of available to them.
Yeah. You look around at some of the sides and the way they invest their money, and the good sides like South, Melbourne Roosters, it's invested in their spine. You know, you put together the spine of the Roosters or the Storm or even South Sydney, even the Eels to some extent, and you can see where their money's been spent in the right areas, and then they build forwards around it. Some of these other clubs, I don't know, they tend to put money and invest money into the wrong area. I think Ponga's a good investment for the Knights. I just don't think they've invested well in the halves. I thought letting go of Mitchell Pearce was a mistake, personally. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Let's come back to you again, Timmy. This is Carrigan, mate. So he's the next most traded out on the list.
Yeah, look, it hurts me as a Broncos member and fan. I love the bloke. I think he's a great player. We're going to lose him for the next 4 weeks, and we're losing 50 tackles a game amongst everything else that he does, both on and off the field. I mean, obviously, we don't lose him at training and off the field, but I'm sure he's not going to be involved at training sessions and things like that as much as what he normally is, as opposed to, well, maybe if he's on the other side doing some tackling and things like that. But he's certainly a loss. I can totally understand why people are trading him out. He's out for 4 weeks, so you're only going to pick him up. You'll only have him in your team for the last game of the round, which has nothing to do with head-to-head or anything else. So, yeah, it's just a waste of cash sitting there.
If you're a Haas owner or if you're not a Haas owner and you're looking for a front row, a Haas will benefit from Carrigan loss.
Absolutely, he will.
Yeah, you just notice, you look at the numbers when Haas is playing on his own and when he's playing with Carrigan. It's the same in Lolo and Cotter. You know, Cotter is a workaholic tackle bot, and so is Carrigan. You know, everyone needs a Carrigan in their side, in my opinion. All right, we'll move to you again, Ross, and we're going to Jackson Hastings. I'm sort of saddened by this one. Him playing 80 minutes in the lock, he was looking very poddy to me. He was looking almost like a bye.
Yeah, very, very disappointing. I mean, talk about a week for players to go down with Cleary getting suspended. I mean, probably your two, not bad options to go from Cleary to are both out as well. You've got Mitch Moses and Jackson Hastings both gone. Like, it's a week of carnage. It really is. But yeah, which we'll obviously talk about a bit later. So some options for Cleary. But yeah, it's a shame because he was doing really well. He was on fire. He was going under the radar. He would have been a good pickup probably for SuperCoach this week. But it's a shame. But yeah, big loss for the Tigers. I mean, I know we can't make the 8, but they'll definitely miss him in that team. That's for sure. So yeah.
To move through these a little bit quicker so we can get to more interesting content for the page, the next ones are Koala, Ezra Mam, Meany and Sawali. Is any of them, I'll go to you, Brad, any of them you wouldn't be selling?
Oh, it depends upon what trades you've got to make. I mean, all of them are real possible trades. I mean, Manly's run isn't great, so cool, yeah, we'll go. Sawali surprises me a little bit. I don't, if you've stuck with him to this point, I'm not really sure where your benefit is in selling him.
Yeah.
You can play him on the matchup. I think the Roosters have got a good matchup coming up somewhere there.
They've got Tigers next week or something, I think it is.
I'd be keeping him for that. He's probably a 100 player right there against the Tigers. No offence, but
I only traded him in last week.
Yeah.
After trading him out about 6 or 8 weeks ago through Origin or at the end of Origin or something or other. So, yeah.
I'm certain he was in the top 10 last week as trade-ins. So that's a really weird one. But anyway, apart from that, they all make sense.
Yeah, I agree. Ezra Mann's the only other one, if I was going to say, I mean, with Cleary already out, you're replacing in one half. Like, I mean, are they selling a second half? Like, who are they bringing in to do that? I don't see enough. Most of us would have Dylan Brown, Munster, Cleary, Hines kind of combo. And then there's a few in between that, like, maybe Hughes. We'll get to that anyway when we come and talk about replacements for Cleary. So what about you, Ross? Any of those 4 that you wouldn't be selling?
Oh, probably only, like Brad said, probably Sawali, just because, I mean, they've got some good matchups coming up. And if you're worried about him this week against the Broncos, you just sit him out. And I'd be nearly tempted to play him. I don't know. I mean, yeah, but I don't think I'd be selling him. As I said earlier, but, these are all luxury trades. I mean, you've got to have the trades left to do it. So, yeah, I wouldn't be selling Sawali. If I had him, I'd just keep him and just run with him till the end of the year.
Tim? Agree?
Yeah, I agree with the boys. Like I said, I only brought him in a couple of weeks ago. I think he'll go all right against all the opposition that he's got. I was a bit scared off with some of the teams that Roosters have to play against till the end, but I think he's a player that'll go all right no matter what. He seems to score a try every week. Half of them get allowed, half of them get disallowed, but he just seems to score a try every week. So it's almost part of his base stats now, scoring a try in the corner. So doing something athletic. The only other one that I guess, if you're super low on trades, I know his BE is through the roof, but Cooler, I really struggled to sell it. That's who I actually went. I went Cooler to Sawali 2 weeks ago, and I really struggled with that. And it was really only because Cooler had the really high break even. I think it was about 115 or something like that. So it was a case of now or never type thing.
Well, Cooler, I understand. I mean, he was a cheapie. He's done his job and he's, made the money and we move him on. But I do agree with you. DCE without Turbo in the side plays right to Olakau'atu and Cooler. So, it's interesting. I was going to say, sometimes in SuperCoach, we should be careful what we wish for. I mean, last week I was 24 playing players, only one NPR. I was hoping for carnage. And then when Cleary went down and then Moses went down and they started driving, right, stop the carnage.
So it's your fault.
That's enough of the carnage. I wanted some carnage, not too much. All right, guys, we'll move on to the most traded in, and we'll after we go through the ones that have been discussed, I'll come to you guys and we'll have a bit of a discussion about some pods and maybe positions as to who we think might be the best to bring in to replace certain people that have gone down. So I'll come to you first, Tim. The most traded in this round is Jerome Hughes. What do you think?
Look, I wrote an article about him, about the traded in guys today. I think Ross and Brad, the three of us, if those who haven't tuned in for much lately, myself and Ross and Brad all, I'd say work for, but it's not really work. It is work, but it's not paid work with the SuperCoach 360 guys. So the three of us write articles, and the boys use it and do whatever they do with it. So I think all three of us probably wrote an article very similar today about all the traded in for Cleary and Moses. So look, the biggest one, I think Hughes is a safe bet. He's not a scary bet. Like, he's in my fear factor article for this week, but he's not a scary player not to own, I don't think. He doesn't have the same high ceiling as the guys that you want in there at this time of year. You want blokes that have got a shot at hitting 150 or more. But by all means, if you're a safe player, if you're in the top 1,000 and you're trying to make sure you stay there, then look, I can understand why you go Hughes, but it's just, he's not the bloody sexiest option, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
So let's take a little closer look at Hughes, right? So, okay, they've got a good matchup this week against the Titans, and we won't debate that that's a good matchup for him.
Right.
But from here, we've got Penrith, Broncos, Roosters, and the Eels, who the Storm are playing, right? In his last 6 games, he's averaged 68. He's got a 51, a 56, a 33, a 53, and a 78. They're not knock down your door numbers, are they?
No.
I mean, and when I'm bringing in halves, I generally like to get goal kickers, and we'll get to those a bit later. But anyway, I just thought I'd offer a different perspective as to the Hughes one. I actually don't like that trade. There's a few out there with better draws, and I'll talk about them later on. And I will come to the next one, which is you, Ross, and we're going to go to Dewey, who you liked. Would you bring him in this week? He's the second most traded in.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I actually don't mind the trade as a pod option. I mean, obviously, he's not playing in a ceiling club, obviously, or anything like that, but he's got the goal kicking. He's going to have a lot more responsibility on him now, especially now that Hastings is out. He was really good last week against the Broncos. I think he scored 120 points or something last week. So
Dewey?
Yeah, Dewey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
scrum.
I don't hate it, but
yeah,
it just depends. I mean, I don't know. I don't hate the idea, as I said. If you need to win your head-to-head this week or something like that, you'd probably go for someone a bit more safer. But if you're in a position where you don't care about head-to-head or whatever and you want a pod play, then I like it. I don't mind the option at all. I think it's.
I don't mind it even in head-to-head, to be honest. I mean, let's visit his numbers, okay? So he's got a 14, which isn't pretty. In a game, I don't think he played the full minutes. 36, 27, but then it's gone 87, 51, and 122. So with every game, he's improved.
Those 3 games before the 87, he was off the bench. So you can't really take anything into that.
I think the first game he came on, he only played the last 15 minutes or something.
Yeah, so you can't really take much into that. But yeah, like the scores the last 2 weeks have been good. So, and the Tigers don't have the worst run home either. I can't remember who we're playing. I know we've got Knights this week, but we don't have the worst run home.
No, the Tigers have a bit of a mixed bag. Couple of nice ones, couple of harder ones.
Yeah.
I'll just let you know too, Brad, since you're a guest, if we're ever talking about someone and there's something you want to say on it, just raise your hand. I'll see it and I'll make sure you get a voice on it. Because sometimes I know when I'm the guest or, and I hear something, I interject all the time. But sometimes our guests are too well-mannered.
It's like being back at school, Brad. You've just got to jump in.
That's it. No mercy.
All good.
All right, the next one.
Tigers draw, boys. Newcastle, Sharks, Roosters, St. George, Raiders.
Okay.
Not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So the next one we've got, we'll come to you, Brad, is our man, the best-looking man in the comp, Heinzie.
I can't believe the people that don't have him. So I'm shocked. But,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, if you don't have him, he's the one you got to go. Yeah, simple.
Yeah, well, surprisingly, a lot of people had Moses. I myself had Moses, and I had Moses and Cleary combination, which worked for me really well. But I had Hines down at fullback. But I'm with you, mate. People that didn't have Hines and Cleary, I don't make it. And look at his numbers. So he's averaging 82, 96, 96, 80, 80. I was at 47, 74. But if you look right across the board at his numbers, they're very SuperCoach friendly.
And he's got a high ceiling that sits there. A lot of people had him at fullback, so not everybody was running with a halves combination. A lot of people running with Latrell and Hines as well, and playing around with combos like that. So, as I said, I'm surprised. Yeah, if you don't have him, then he's the obvious one for Cleary. But I think I had a look at some of the stats today that in the top 100, and that just about, I think it's something like 92% of the top 100 have Hines. So
yeah,
88. So top percentage. The top 100 is 88%. Top 1,000 is 90%. Top 5,000 is 90%. That's actual ownership for those positions.
Yeah,
and last year's winner doesn't own him either, and hasn't owned him for quite a few weeks.
Yeah, he's taken a couple of beatings the last 2 rounds, hasn't he, Paul?
He's got Cleary and Moses in his team.
Yeah, that's right. And that just shows you how SuperCoach, no one's exempt. There's no God out there that says bad players or good players get anything less. We all cop it at different rounds. All right, we'll move on to the one that I hate to talk about him, because I said to everybody before going into the buys, this is the guy to buy for the run home. I told anyone who would listen, just not myself. So Holmes. So this is back to you, Tim, isn't it?
Sure, I'll take it off. Look, he's one that, like we were talking about before the show, guys, where you just sort of know you got to jump on, but you just, for whatever reason, you can't this week, and then something happens and you can't next week. Val's been one that I've wanted to get on since Origin, since before Origin finished, and I just haven't been able to make it work. Even last week, I think it came down to him or Suwali, and Suwali made me bank another 100K, so I went that way. But yeah, it certainly hurt watching Suwali bang out 25 while Val banged out 90 odd last week. So I've got no doubt he's a high ceiling player in a high ceiling club at the moment. So you should have him. I just can't make it work.
A lot of people got sucked in by the Roosters and the Manly stuff going on last week with the outs that happened with Manly. A lot of people were thinking Carnage, Manu, and Suwali are going to go. And I said on the pub last week, I looked at going Suwali too, but I ended up pulling back and not doing it. Most of my trades recently have all been, Pubbenhouse and Cleary. They've all been replacing trades. And Holmes and Manu are going to be the two that haunt me for the year. Round 13, I didn't go Manu. Instead, I bought Dylan Brown to go forward. And then from 13 to 17, you weren't going to buy someone like Manu because you're looking for round 17 players. And then all that time, I'm expecting him to go back to centre wing, and he has fullback 5'8". It's like, come on, you can't keep doing it. And he just keeps getting that spot. And then last week, he goes back to centre and scores a try anyway. All right, I'll come to you, Ross. The next one, look, this guy has been fantastic. Probably one of the best second rowing scorers I've ever seen is Nanai.
Yeah, he's been good since after Origin. He's been outstanding. He's got an average of over 100, I think it's a 5-round average of over 100 or something. I think it is. Is it?
Yeah, that's right. He's had a 75, 77, 70, 104, 158.
He's like this year's IPAP. He's just scoring tries for fun. This bloke. He's just unbelievable, and just God, I was looking at buying him this week, but 708K. I just don't know if I can do it. I mean, I'm kind of scared not to own him, but the only thing is, though, is I look at most of my opponents on punt this week, and unless they trade him in, no one owns him. So that's a good thing too. But look, again, it all depends up to make up your side and how many trades you've got. Whether people are doing Cleary to Nanai via duels, I don't know. But I don't hate the trade in. But God, I mean, if we all knew this was going to happen, we wouldn't have sold him weeks ago like we did. I was just looking through my trade history now, and I sold him weeks and weeks ago. Like, I sold him in round 6. I traded him out.
If I'm a head-to-head player, based on the draw, looking at the run home, Sharks and Cows are two of the sides that I'm looking at. And I think Nanai is a really nice pod pickup. I think he's that player that could literally win you a head-to-head. He's also, and his face is improved too, if you haven't noticed. You noticed, like, early on in the season, his face wasn't quite as prominent as it has been of late, which is interesting.
I just think since his Origin selection, it's really just lifted him up, and he's just been a completely different player. Like, he's just in absolute beast mode since Origin. So, like I said, if you've got the cash and you've got the trades, then why not? I think it's a good trade.
Next one's an interesting one. I'm interested to hear what you have to say on this one, Brad. It's A-Ray. It's someone we'd never look at in the past in Supercoach, but geez, I don't know if I'd argue that now.
Yeah, I know you. I'm only basing this on his previous history, but he just has not a great ceiling.
Yeah, right.
But that's only because this year he's actually proven that he does have a bit of a high ceiling.
Yeah.
So I've got to beat that out of my head. You know what I mean? Like I'm just programmed to think, okay, A-Ray doesn't have I've been watching him for nearly 10 years. He doesn't have a great ceiling. He's a good player, but his ceiling for Supercoach has never been that friendly. But at the Broncos this year, he certainly has put up some better figures. I think there are higher ceiling options out there that you really should consider.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're very Jerome Hughes sort of territory there. He's going to punch you a 50 to 60, but I'm just not certain, particularly with Mam. Mam's made a big difference to his scoring. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yep.
When he did get those high scores earlier in the year, it's before Mam came on the scene.
Yeah.
And he was playing a dominant half role, whereas he's actually lost a bit of the kicking in general play duties, and some of the other sweeping plays are going back over Mam's direction. So, yeah,
I agree.
Not for me, but
100% agree with you on that. Since Mam's entrance has been a change in the way he gets his points, as we all know. But the bigger issue, and we all know of A-Ray, is he's injury prone. He's just a walking glass, and you don't know what round it's going to happen in, but you can be sure it will.
I think not only that, I think you could bet your left leg on the fact that he'll get a rest at some stage, whether it be if the Broncos are up by 20, he'll be probably the first person they bring off. They've been playing Gamble off the bench. They've had Pates on the bench. Like I can see him being first hand up, mate, come and sit down for the last 15. It wouldn't surprise me if even the last round or two, he might get a real rest and sit out for a week. We've still got Albert Kelly. We've still got, we seem to have a whole stack of players that can fill the spot. So if we don't need the points or something, if we're not going to make the top four, if we're going to finish in fifth or something like that, and it's fairly guaranteed, I could see Reynolds being the first one that sits out.
Yeah, come to you for the next one, Tim, and that's Tarpany.
Look, he's another fish that got away. He's I've said all season that I need to bring him in and just haven't been able to make it work. I kept Haas right throughout Origin. And yeah, look, I couldn't bring myself to sell him. The amount of times I thought, I've got the cash there, I'll go this week and pull the trigger, and still couldn't make myself do it. Dead set, I reckon I've probably traded him in about 15 times throughout the season and reversed every single one of them before game day. So, look, I can understand it. If you've got the cash, I'll be doing it. If you've got the trades, I'll be doing it. So certainly a bloke who could win you a head-to-head and get you off to a good start. So, yeah, look, I can understand why people are doing it. You just got to make it, though.
Brad?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, before the season started, I wrote a couple of articles, and Roscoe and Timmy can probably remember them, but about the psychotic nature of Ricky Stewart and his bench rotation.
Yep.
Which he seems to have steadied down a bit. He's not as crazy as what he was, but he's still pretty bad. Yeah. But he's got a couple of points per minute monsters there, and that was one of the things I wrote about, is that Tapine is just a fantastic points per minute machine, but I always felt that he was wasting him by only playing him for like 48 minutes and 50 minutes and things like this. You know what? Doesn't matter. It's proven that his points per minute are so good that he might only punch out 52 minutes or something. He's still going to get you a 70 to 80. Adam Elliott is exactly the same. Adam Elliott's got a 5-round average of, I think, about 90 or something crazy.
Yeah.
He certainly had been going very well, but, like last week, he played him for something like 42 minutes. Typical Ricky Stewart psychotic bench rotations, but I guess if you got a points per minute monster like that, it doesn't matter if they only play 40-odd minutes. No, I mean, what was that one the other week? Corey Haruranira? I can never pronounce his name good. What did he play? Something like 17 minutes and ended up with over 100. Yeah. Just crazy stuff.
And that's the hardest part with Ricky, because it's like there's no method either. Like, you could play someone for 65 minutes one week and 35 for the next week. It's like he's given them all 80 minutes, but that 80 minutes spans out over 3 weeks. and there's like it can be your turn this week or the bloke beside you's turn this week. There's never any method to how he does it. But
he's not consistent, is he? And then he gives Elliot Whitehead, who's an absolute spud, runs up and down on the spot all the time. But 80 minutes, you go, oh my God.
The one thing I will say on Tarpany is that I would have recommended people to buying him earlier in the season when you're trying to have a solid number. When I look at Tarpany's numbers, they don't frighten me. 82, 74, 74, 73, and then the 113, which was with a try. But he's very consistent. But I remember people were selling Haas to Lolo, and I kept saying, if you're going to make that trade, do it to Haas. And I was quite surprised how many went to Lolo at that point in time. It just didn't make sense. I'll come to you now, Ross, with Drinkwater.
Yeah. I don't mind. I don't mind the trade either. I mean, especially now, there's probably a good chance he's not going to get benched, or with Felt being out the next 2 games, and you've got Hammer starting on the wing. So yeah, he certainly bounced back to form last week. He had a shocker against the Tigers. Let's face it, he dropped a lot of ball. He was terrible, and felt for those who captained him that week. But I don't hate the option. Obviously, people are going to bring him in for Cleary or whatever else like that. So I don't hate it. Like we discussed earlier, Cowboys have got a good draw home. They've got some really good matchups. So yeah, I don't hate it. He's got some good upside to him as well. So yeah, I don't mind the option.
Drinkwater reminds me a little bit of Moses, and I'll tell you why. When Moses is confident, he plays really well. And Drinkwater is the same. And one of the things I've noticed about Drinkwater is players that get up in his face tends to struggle with that. And that's what the Tigers did to him. The Tigers and the Dogs are both sides that they don't have the talent. So to make up for it, they've got to do that bustling off the line defence, get up in their face kind of defence. And he really struggled with that. But when that guy's got freedom to move, Drinkwater's among one of the better players in our game. I'll come to you.
Can I just say, before we move on, the fact that Hammer isn't on the bench, that he's in the starting side this week, I think that'll have a massive difference.
Yeah.
Before, well, especially over the last 2 weeks, you've been a bit scared that maybe Drinky's going to get more of a rest with Hammer sitting on the bench. You can take a fullback off the field and put a ready-made fullback straight back on. So I think the fact that he's now on centre or he's gone to the wing this week due to injury. So, yeah, look, I think he's a much safer bet than what he was the last 2 weeks. And look what Drinky did last week. I know the week before he didn't have a good one, and I was really hoping that he was going to smash it that week. But, yeah, last week he played well.
Munster's the next one, Brad. I'll come to you. I mean, this one's a bit of a no-brainer too in the other direction.
Yeah, I don't spend too much time on it. If you've got an option to get him in, get him in. Particularly with the matchup this weekend versus the Titans, it does get harder for the Storm, but he's your premium 5/8 you should have. That's it.
A point of interest on him as well is that with Meaney out of the side, he likely goal kicks, which adds to the flavour. And if he doesn't, it'd be Grant. But I mean, last week when Munster did do the goal kicking when Meaney went down. So, I mean, I'm getting Munster this week. I wasn't going to. Based on the draw, I thought I could just cop the Titans one, but I think with the goal kicking, it just adds that extra dimension for me.
And I wouldn't be surprised either if there's not a late swing done and he doesn't start fullback either this week. I don't think they'll start Wishart at fullback. I reckon there's a chance that Munster could start fullback this week.
I don't think Munster goes to fullback, but I agree with you on Wishart. I actually did look at that. So give me a second. I agree with you on what you just said.
Because I think they've got Johns or someone on the extended bench, so they could possibly play Munster at fullback.
Well, it's possible. I agree with you. I actually thought Norfoluma could jump to fullback and that Wishart could move to the wing. That was just my theory on it. So see how it plays out. But I agree with you. I don't think Wishart starts at fullback. And I was trying to wonder if Wishart kicking, because I remember Rod Wishart being one of the great goal kickers. But he didn't kick when he was on the field last week at the same time when Munster did. So the last one I'll give to you, Roscoe, because I know you like this player. DCE, mate.
Me, you're going to go to me again, are you? Okay. All right.
Oh, sorry. I thought I went to Brad last.
It's okay. It's all good. I don't know. I've traded him, and I traded him about 3 weeks ago, and he's done nothing for me. He's been very, very disappointing, to be honest with you. I thought he was going to go better. I remember last year on the run home after Origin, he absolutely killed it last year. So I'm very disappointed to trade him in, and I'm disappointed owner at the moment. I'm actually tempted to not play him again this week against God, I've forgotten who they're playing against now. Who's Manly playing this week again? Sorry.
Parramatta.
Parramatta. Yeah, I'm tempted to not play him this week either. But
Hey,
I just think, yeah.
Well, I just got to tell you, he's got a high score against Parramatta of 133. I'll let that sink in. He is still not going to play him.
Thanks, Brad.
And they leak on the edges, Parramatta as well.
He's 7.4% owned.
Yeah,
mate, you got a pod right there.
Yeah. Would I be trading him in this week? Probably not, to be honest with you. I think there's other better options to trade in for Cleary, to be honest with you.
I don't hate it. I'll tell you something funny that happened with my younger son, Josh. So he rang me up a little while ago and said, Dad, who do I trade to get Brown or whatever building into the buy round? So I talked him out of selling DCE. Then the next 2 weeks, DCE had some fairly good games. Brown outscored him, but he was still cranky at me for some reason for letting go of DCE. So anyway, this week he brought DCE back in for his 23, and then he rings me up again. Bloody DCE. But, mate, DCE has a history on the run home of scoring some nice big scores. And you go to any year and look at the back end of DCE's years, and you'll see that his scoring is actually quite high. So
he's going to have to step up because, they're going to make the top 8. I mean, they're not guaranteed to make the 8 yet either. So someone's got to step up. I thought
the Eels, mate.
I thought Manly played okay last week, considering they were missing seven players as well. I mean, the Roosters were pretty average, but I thought Manly played pretty well, to be honest with you. So,
I agree.
Yeah. So,
all right, boys.
Is BE's 149? 149. Their last 5 games: Para, Gold Coast, Sharks, Raiders, Bulldogs. So, considering Para and Sharks are both trying to push for top 4 or to be in and around the top 4. Raiders are obviously still trying to push for the 8. Dogs are trying to get off the bottom, and as are Gold Coast. So, yeah, there could be anything. For me, like in the article that I wrote, I said as much as I like having him this time of the year, I generally bring him in after round 17 for the run home because he just seems to kill it. But, yeah, look, I think with a break-even of 149, this is why I'm tempted to hold the Cleary trade this week, hold on to him because I don't need to play, I don't need to cover in the halfback spot because I've got Hines. With a B of 149, I think if DCE has a decent game, but say if he drops 50K and goes back below 600, then I'm absolutely all over that.
Money's usually irrelevant for most people bringing in players at this time of the year, but, I mean, to some, it may well be. And I'll just point out this week, so DCE will be running it Dylan Brown and Lane, who are defending quite well. But I personally, the Parramatta leak on both their edges, and they've been leaking to middle forward as well late in games. I personally would be playing DCE versus Parramatta, but each to their own. I just think that DCE is the one that can break it open. I actually see DCE putting in Olakawatu or Koala this week for a try as well.
Yep. Can I just add, there's been a bit of talk in the media that sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks, Turbo might actually be back.
Yeah.
So I'll be really interested to see how that goes. I could see it being a case if Manly can make if they're not in the 8, but need to win the last 3 games or something, I think you'll see Turbo comes back. And obviously that makes a bit of difference to DCE's game. So, yeah, look, it could be very interesting. It could be this great pod that just brings you home. And like we said before, he's at 6 or 7%, whatever it is.
Well, that leads into our next segue really nicely, which is let's talk about some pods. So I don't know if you've written any down or whatever, but I've gone through a few pods. I'll just name a couple of myself that I liked, and then we'll just move to you guys and we'll talk about. So some of the ones that I liked for in the halves was Walker. I thought offered a ceiling. Fogarty, I thought was an interesting half to get with goal kicking with a fairly nice draw. And they were the only 2 that I had in the half. So, and Moylan was another one that I sort of threw in cheekily, and I thought I wouldn't do it to myself, but they do have a draw that suits them. So we'll start with the halves. Is there any halves that I'll come to you, Brad, first, that you think would be an interesting pod play?
Oh, well, DC was my sort of pod player. As I said, what is he? 7% sort of owned. He was sort of one, but mind you, so is Dewey. He's sort of landing at about that same percentage, I think, of ownership. No, good luck. Just pick who you's in your gut. And I mean, you got a choice of, there's quite a few different good ones out there. So no real pods there. I've got a few other pods for Jules, via Jules that you probably should maybe consider. But
who are they, mate? Who you got?
Oh, look, I don't mind Lane.
Yeah.
To be honest truth, I know this week's going to be a hard match for them, but he's only 6.1%, and he's sort of he's got a 5-round average of 71, so that's pretty solid stuff.
Yep.
And he's got a high ceiling. He just needs to get a few of them offloads away, and his ceiling is quite high. And my other one, and you're going to think this is absolutely ridiculous, but you actually mentioned him before, and that's Nofaluma.
Yeah.
Now, Nofaluma on that edge, on that side for the Melbourne Storm, could be absolute gold. 489K, not the worst run home at all. And if you've got a couple of trades up your sleeve, I reckon 489. Somebody said to me today, he's actually, geez, he's a bit expensive. I went, no, actually, 489 for someone like Nofaluma on the back edge of some months cutout passes will be absolutely just gold. Just go back and have a look at some of the of that edge that for the Melbourne during the year and what they've scored.
And on top of that, have a look at what Nofaluma done also at back ends of seasons. He can be quite the player.
Yeah.
But he's a worker. He's not. I hate the Melbourne Storm wingers. I never have them in my team because they can be. I mean, I know we've talked about this on this particular show a lot this year because some people seem to be trading them in. Like I remember when Xavier Coates, everyone was all over that, and I just went, "Why? He'll get 100 this week. He'll get you 10 next week." Nofaluma's not that kind of guy. He's the guy that will give you consistent 50s or 60s. Add a couple of try, and that's in base stats, and then you add a try, and all of a sudden he's up near 100. He's the kind of winger that I reckon the Storm actually need and need to keep because he's the bloke that will do the tough runs. He's got a tackle bust. He's got an offload. He's got all the good stuff that you want. He's not 7 foot tall like some of the other wingers are that they seem to like to get down at the Storm, but he's a guy that's actually going to work for your team. It's not all pretty stuff.
It's interesting you should say that because I was talking with that to Tyrone the other day about the way the different sides play their football. When you look at sides like the Sharks, Penrith, and there's a few others in there, nearly all of their backs do a lot of hitting up. All four of them, they literally do that work. And the Storm have never really played that way. That's not their way. They've usually got a really good spine and strong forward pack, and then they move it around behind off the back of that forward momentum that they get. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that the way that they're struggling at the moment, a base stat back would be something interesting for the Storm to take them tough carries. And Nofaluma will do those tough carries. I agree with you, Brad. He was on my list here as well, Nofaluma. And I own Lane. I told everyone to buy Lane at the start of the buy period, and he has been incredibly consistent.
Are we worried about him holding his spot when Olam comes back, or do we think that Anderson drops out when Olam comes back next week?
Yeah, no.
Is Nofo's job security any good?
Nofaluma will get the job over Anderson, mate, 100%. I mean, look, at the end of this program every week, I've been telling you where to put your money, and every week it's been whoever is running at Anderson. Because if you watch the last 3 games, that Warriors,
he's defensive.
He comes in off the edge and he doesn't trust Seve. So both of them are terrible defenders. Not that Olam's a good defender either. He's another one who rushes up, but he tends to get his man more often than not. Anderson is a real issue for the Storm.
Nofo's not. He's been known to be a terrible defender too, though, mind you.
We're not as bad as Anderson. I mean, he's got more experience, is my point. I mean, I'm only going by my gut.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be very surprised if they bring Nofaluma in and he doesn't play the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's exactly. They're not. Bellyache's not stupid. He's not going to get a player like Nofaluma and not play him. I can't see that happening. Why would you go to the hassle of loaning a player from another club and then sitting? I mean, that's Ricky Stewart's stupid stuff.
Yeah.
So
Olam will definitely be back.
That'd be something that the Warriors would do.
Yeah. I'll come to you now, Tim. Have you got any pod you want to throw at us, mate? Lane and Norfoluma were two we got from Brad. I really like both.
Yeah, look, a bit of a left field one for you. As far as halfback cover, what about Tommy Dearden?
The draw's conducive to him, but I don't know if he's got a ceiling. What do you boys think?
I'm not so much ceiling, but just he's an alternative to Cherry Evans. He's an alternative to Hughes. I think he gives similar bang for your buck. Well, he gives better bang for your buck because he's only 420K or something.
Yeah.
So if you've got the trades and you want to make a couple of trades, look, you can take 250K out of Nathan Cleary, put in Tommy Dearden, and then put some like a crap second rower, add the money, and all of a sudden you can bring in Tapane, you can bring in Nanai, you can bring in Dewey, you can bring you're bringing in a decent halfback in a decent team that are playing really good footy and they're scoring points. You can do a lot worse than Tommy Dearden banging out 70s to 90s every week, and then use the money to bring in a ceiling player somewhere else. At least he's going to give you solid cover. I don't see him being the kind of bloke that the Cowboys are going to rest. Look, I think he's a solid pod.
Look, 100% there, Timmy. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, I actually had a big spiel about him on 360. I remember one of them there was absolutely laughing their guts out at me. And then I pointed out, I think he's got 200s to his name earlier in the year. He had a couple of quiet hit outs there, but they were HIA affected. So he is actually a high ceiling player. He's got it in him. But Drinkwater has taken a bit off him. That's the only negative I'll throw in. Since Drinky sort of came on the scene hard and fast, his scores have dropped away a bit.
And he meets the two criteria that I mentioned earlier. When I look at a player for ceiling, I look at the club first. How many opportunities is he going to get to score? And the Cows are on fire. And with the welcome back of Cotter, I expect even more points from him. So, look, I don't hate Dearden. I personally like goal kickers in my halves if they're not going to be like a Munster, the standout performer. But I don't hate Dearden at all. I like the Cowboys, and I believe that they'll get plenty of opportunities to score. And
the other thing that I like with it is, especially with the Cowboys as a whole, which doesn't seem to be getting talked about enough, is that for head-to-head players, the head-to-head round finishes in round 24. Cowboys have the Panthers in round 25.
Yeah.
So when you look at the 5 games and you go, oh, shit, they got the Panthers last, that'll be 1 versus 2 of the table or whatever. But they're now Panthers without Cleary. But disregard that. Unless you're an overall player, round 25 doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
So you take the Panthers out of that mix. They've got the Bulldogs, then the Roosters, Warriors, and Souths. So if you're trying to make a semi-final, you're trying to make the grand final. If you're in the semi, you've got round 23 against the Warriors. You take your 250K from Cleary, put it into Dearden, and then you've got 250K to do a major upgrade for a high ceiling for somebody else that's playing in 23 and 24, and you're all set.
And they're good matchups too. Warriors for the semi-final and South for the final in head-to-head.
Absolutely.
Ross, any pods you want to throw out, mate?
Probably just the two I like is probably Nani and Dewey, the two that I like, just as the pods. I mean, I don't think too many is going to have Nani, and I don't think too many is going to have Dewey. But I both like them. I think Nani's got good upside. I think Dewey's got the good upside too. So they're probably the two that I like as pods.
So a lot of the ones you've said I had on my list, the ones that haven't been spoken about. So I just want to touch on Fogarty in the halves, goal kicking, and the Raiders have quite a nice draw. So, I mean, if you're looking for a pod, he's one that could be interesting. And the other two that I like are based on draw is Ramian and Tracy for the Sharks. I really like the Sharks draw. I really like Ramian. Tracy doesn't quite have the work rate, but he puts himself into positions to scoring tries. I think he's scored a try in every game he's played since he's been back. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I've been wrong before. It has happened.
The thing that worries me about the Sharks is that we keep talking every week and week. We talk about how good their draw's been, but blokes like Talakai, who, absolutely beasted it up against Manly a few weeks ago when he got 100 and something. Since then, he's really done nothing, and he's had some pretty decent matchups and still only scoring 40s, 50s. So to me, that is a bit of a concern. I mean, obviously we want these upside players, but I don't know if I'd be bringing blokes like that in at this time of the year, to be honest with you.
when you look at your matchups that you know where the ball's going to go. Like you probably see sometimes I write in the pod, the ball's going to go right all game, the ball's going to go left. And often that's what happens because if you watch sides enough, you see where other sides are attacking certain teams. And so it's a matter of knowing which way they're going to go, left or right. So if it's going to go right, like for example, he got injured, the other, I can't think of his name now, the other Cronulla Shark.
Yeah, Katoa.
Yeah.
You know, if you watch particular games, they play right, other games they play left. And that's a case of those that are shrewd is looking those kind of matches up and knowing which way the ball's going to go.
Well, that's what worries me about owning Mulatalo and Talakai, that they just don't go left enough. They just don't seem to go that way much. They seem to go more to Tracy and Ramian's side. And as owners, it's very, very frustrating. I know that. It's like the owners who bought Fafita thinking Fafita was going to do well. And look what happened there. They shifted him to the other side this week and Firma ended up killing it. So
yeah,
it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things. I just don't know if I'd be trading any of them in. If I had them already, I'd be playing them, but I don't think I'd be trading them in.
Fair enough. Well,
Talakai's a bit like Josh Schuster. They have to be running towards a Macca's to score a try.
You leave.
Is that where Schuster is now? Because he's been dropped this week. He's been dropped for Burbo.
Yeah. I prefer Burbo. Geez, Schuster's got big and lazy. All right, gentlemen. We'll move on to the next part of our pod, which is we'll start with trades this week. So, Tim, what are your trades looking like this week, if any?
Yeah, look, I'm really contemplating not doing any trades. I've got the trades in the boost there. I've got 150K in the bank, and let's look at the carnage over the last 2 weeks of who's dropped out. I think I'm going to save my trades.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had a shit score last week because I had Captain Cleary. But I mean, even with that, I don't see a need.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying because I didn't trade. I don't need to trade this week. I mean, I left out Dylan Brown last week, which hurt, and I kind of wished I didn't. But I'm leaving out good players, and for me to bring in another player this week for Cleary, it means that I've still got to leave out good players. But having said that, mine's going to be Munster if I do make a trade this week, Cleary to Munster, or I don't trade. Roscoe, what are you looking at, mate?
At the moment, it's Cleary to Tarpany via Jules for me. Just need to bolster up one more second row spot a bit more. I mean, I'm pretty happy with. I've moved Holmes back to fullback, so I've got Holmes and Teddy at fullback, and I've got Hines and DC in the halves, and I've got Munster and someone else. I can't think at the moment, but in 5'8", so I'm pretty well stacked up there. So I probably the last piece of the puzzle. That'll leave me for 3 trades after this week, and plus a boost, which I probably won't even get a chance to use, but it's there anyway.
No Latrell this week, mate. That's a game.
I can't get myself doing it. I've got a feeling he's going to go big this week, but I don't really like his draw after this game. So
he's a hard watch if you own Latrell. He's lazy. I mean, his base, I think it's 15. Is that right? I'm pretty sure.
It's not great, but he did get moved to the centres this week. So when Cartwright went off injured, so it's not ideal, but. It's pretty scary not owning him, though, I've got to say.
Yeah, he's the best left edge in the game. In my opinion, that's where I'd own him. I mean, if I was the coach of that side, just the damage that Latrell can do on a left edge is unlike any player in the game.
Yeah.
So I was a bit shocked that Cook kept going right. I mean, I don't own Latrell, so I was happy that he did. But I kept thinking to myself, if they go left, and Latrell gets on them half one-on-one, it's so hard to stop. Brad, what are your trades this week, mate?
If I trade, I might not. I might be like Timmy, but if I try, I've only got 1 trade left. So, but if I did, it'll be Cleary to Drinky or DCE. Yeah.
Nice.
Not sure yet.
Do you already have Munster, mate?
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I was debating between Drinkwater and Munster myself. I got Brown, Mam, Cleary, and Hines at the moment, but I'm going to turn it to Munster. Second rows, I've had a lot of strength in second row this season. That's where I've been. Every week, like I've got 1 will get me 30, but I've got 2 that are getting me 80 plus scores. Second row has been a good spot to load up. All right, the next part of our one is Cs and VCs, guys. So I'll start with you this time, Brad. Who's your VC and C options this week, mate?
My VC this week's going to be Munster. I'm going to go money. Seems obvious. And the captain, Trell, 150 plus.
Nice. I'll come to your poll predictions in a minute. Tim, VC and C?
Yeah, it's funny because about an hour and a half ago, I completely flipped. I did have it on Hines going into Joey Manu, and I've since gone Munster into Latrell.
Roscoe?
At the moment, it's Teddy into Munster for me.
Nice. Yeah, I don't dislike the Tedesco matchup. It's at the Sydney Cricket Ground where Teddy does score higher.
He's averaging nearly 100 against the Broncos in his last 3 games too, so it's probably worthwhile a shout. So definitely, yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say I won't be straight seeing him this week though, like I did last week.
Yeah, like I did too.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have this theory, and Tyrone and I have this theory that Thursdays is a lot lower scoring than any other game of the week. And you have a look at the numbers going back, and for some reason, Thursday numbers just don't seem to get those big scores coming out.
But it paid off at the end, though, didn't it? I mean, with Cleary going down in, getting sent off, it paid off because he was the best. He was the best option in the end. He scored the best out of all the main options.
Yeah, well, my option other than him was going to be Hines, who didn't do it. So mine this week, I've actually gone BC Munster, C Hines. I really like Hines matchup, and I'll get to that in a second when we do our bold predictions. So I'll come to you this time, Timmy. Bold predictions, mate.
I'm going Latrell 150 plus.
I better write these ones down because I know my man likes to keep these numbers. Latrell 150 plus.
I know my bold prediction last week didn't go real flash. I said Manu, Teddy, and Suali to bang out 500 points between them.
I know.
I was only about 200 points short.
You even messaged it to me, and I was like, "Good luck with that."
I thought it was just about a sure thing. When you saw the Manly team on paper, geez, it was a different game to what I expected.
My prediction was Manu to score and Holmes to score, and they both did again. But I to be fair, I'm picking ones that are pretty obvious every week.
Well, that's why I figured I'd go, like I was going to say, like someone will get a hat trick or something. And I thought, no, bugger it. It's a bold prediction. They're going 500 between the three of them.
Brad?
My bold prediction, Trell 150. I really like that one. And I've got another one, which is probably going to draw laughter around. But I reckon Deefy, Mr. Fafita for the Titans, put $5 on him, mate.
Yeah.
Anytime try scorer and 100 plus. Running at Anderson, he's just going to smash it.
Yeah, if Anderson, I agree with you. I agree with you.
That's if they pass him the ball.
Yeah. Is that Deefy on the left or Deefy on the right, though? Deefy on the right, the bloke won't catch a cold.
Deefy on the left doesn't get the ball, you mean? They just don't go left to him. They went to Firmer all week last week who played right. Ross, who are your bold predictions, mate?
I'm going to go Teddy, Munster, and Dewey all to turn up this week.
Okay. I just have to see what my thought process was because I did write them down. So I've gone North Aluma, 90 plus. I've gone AJ to score a double, at Lane 90 plus, and Hines 100 plus. So, and my anytime try scorer is double for AJ. I reckon he doesn't just score one this week; he scores 2.
He could get 4 against the Warriors.
I don't think AJ knows how to score just one try. He either gets none or he gets like 10. It's just ridiculous. The bloke scores them for fun.
It's handy in multi-leagues if you do them. Like you pick him for the 2 tries and then pick 2 other ones that are likely going to happen. You know, like I hit on the nose something or maybe by a 72 start or some weird number. But I've been doing those ones a bit and they've been paying off, especially around AJ. All right, gentlemen. So that's all that we've got to talk about. Is there anything that I've forgotten about that you just want to bring up?
I know how we're talking about Nanai before from the Cowboys. It's interesting. I didn't realise, but I heard on one of the pods this morning I was listening to. Nanai is actually the second top try scorer for the NRL this year behind AJ. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
Yeah, I think if you got a little black book, which you should, all super coaches should have a little black book out, particularly this time of year, marking down some potentials that are starting to pop their head out like that. What is that fella at the Tigers? The Molo?
Pole.
Next season.
Yeah, Bowl.
Yeah, put him in your little black book. He's looking good, and his minutes, although he's got limited minutes, he's certainly got not too bad a PPM sort of happening there. I think if he gets more minutes next year, it'll be good. But Nanai, I think you should have in your black book and just start with him next year.
Yeah.
don't have him and Okolatu. Have those two as your starting second rowers. Wow.
Pole could be interesting this week too because he's starting lock this week as well. So it'll be interesting to see what minutes he plays as well there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's where he'll actually start, or do you think
No,
Joey O will go to
so.
13 and Pole will go to front row, surely?
or to bench even. Yeah.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's all we've got to talk about. What I wanted to talk about just quickly before we end was just the last thing I wanted to ask about was, so there's a few sides are battling for that top 8 spot. I'm just going to say that I'll tell you the 3 sides and you say yes, no, yes, and I'll go through each one of you. So, Tim, Roosters, make the 8?
Absolutely.
Souths?
Yes.
Eels?
Yes.
Not all 4 can do it. So you've also got the Raiders and the Manly all fighting for those spots. Those 3 can make it. I've got, as you saw, I put out a prediction. So what about you, Ross? The same through Roosters?
Oh, Roosters will make it. Yeah, I think so.
Eels?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bunnies?
No.
No. What about you, Brad? Bunnies?
Yes.
Eels?
No.
Yeah, that's what I've got. And Roosters?
Yeah, they're the ones that are going to be fighting it out with the Raiders and Manly, I think. I think
Yeah.
the 3 of them will be going head-to-head for that last sort of spot there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it unfolds this year. There's a few battling for that, the top 4 and then the bottom 4 of the 8. So it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. Listen, Brad, thank you for coming on and being our guest tonight.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. I loved it, guys.
Yeah.
Good.
What, you going to say something else?
No, that's it. No, thanks, Glenn. I just, really appreciate being on and, do it again sometime.
Yeah, we've got a real 360 flavour going here at the moment.
I was going to say, we nearly got to change the show name for the night. It's Supercoach 360 plus Glenn.
Yeah, that's right. And thank you again, Ross, for coming on as
Not
always.
a problem at all.
Glad to have you back and feeling better. And same with you, Tim. You've been very unwell at the moment, so it's great to have you back and bouncing again, mate. These flus and stuff have been getting the best of a lot of us, haven't they?
It certainly has, boys. Thanks very much for having us. It's it's always good to talk Supercoach with good people.
I want to win. I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy.